Well, it's Georgia-Florida week. You don't need to say a whole lot more than that, as the Bulldogs and the Gators will meet in Jacksonville on Saturday at 3:30. And here to talk about it a little bit are Eric Zier and DJ Shockley. And guys, coming off, both teams had an open date, so we're coming off that off week. Tell me what it was like, your experience coming off an open date. It's kind of a holiday in the middle of the season, I would imagine. I think the team had a couple of days off. Is it difficult to crank it back up and get started and pick up the pace where you left off prior to the open date?
For me, it never was, because typically you've got that open date prior to one of your big games of the season. And obviously that's the case here, where you've got the annual rivalry with the Gators. It is, listen, you come to Georgia in part to play in this football game, to go play in Jacksonville. So the emotions surrounding this game, they are sky high, and you enjoy the couple of days off. You're able to get rested. Everybody, that the team is able to get healthy. But for me, the anticipation of this game, you were chomping at the bit, and you were ready to go. So getting cranked back up and into that rhythm, for me was always one that was pretty easy, really because of the opponents that you're typically playing after an off weekend.
Yeah, I agree with Z, and I'll say it to this point of when you got the off week, you had time to go away, you got a chance to go home, you got to home and relax, you got to watch maybe some other college football on that Saturday, and then when you come back on that Sunday, you kind of missed it. You kind of feel like, all right, everybody else was playing, you felt like you should be playing, but you're just sitting at home. So now you're like, all right, now we get to crank it back up, and you kind of re-energized. You got to lose focus that, all right, we got a stretch part of the season now we're about to go into. And like Z said, it's probably usually a big game that you're coming off of, a bye week getting ready for. So you're excited to get back, because I think for most guys, you miss being around your teammates. It was good to have those few days off. It gives you a chance to get away from everything, football, the butts, all that kind of stuff, coaches. And then you come back for a couple of days and you're like, all right, I needed that break. I needed that little kind of time off, and you're ready to go. And obviously when you look up and that team, down south in the Blues, the team you're preparing for, makes it a little bit easier to get ready that Monday.
So you might be possibly a little bit hungrier for the next game coming up.
Hungry for like Gator, yeah. That's a good one, Scott. Yeah.
If that's the case, tell me where Georgia needs to be hungrier.
I think it has to be the way they get after the quarterback, especially in a game like this with a guy like Anthony Richardson, who, you're not sure which quarterback will show up for them. Obviously, you saw him versus Utah in the beginning of the year and played really well. Showed his arms, showed his legs. And I think that's the quarterback that they want and they expect to play the latter part of the stretch. And we even heard Kirby talk about it this week, as he's seen him grow every single week on field. And I think for Georgia, the way you get to the quarterback, the way you get him down, this is not a small dude. I think we've all seen him. We saw him last year, 6'4", 235, 240, and can move. I think we have to be better in our way of attacking the quarterback this week. Get him on the ground for one. We've done a good job of pressuring quarterbacks, but we haven't really got him on the ground. Yeah, they've done a good job of throwing it away or whatever it may be. But I think this game, if you're able to get to him, 4 or 5 times and get him on the ground, that's a huge part of this game. It helps Georgia's defense and this entire team, to be honest.
So I completely agree with that. But since Shock stole my answer, I'll go in a different direction. But just quickly to touch base on that, I think so. Defensively, this Georgia team, really in all areas, we've had a couple of weeks where we sputtered a little bit and didn't play quite up to our capabilities or what were our standard. But the one area consistently that we have not done a great job of is getting quarterbacks on the ground. The pressure has been there. We've had quarterbacks in full retreat mode, throwing the football away. They're getting so there's reasons for all of it. But when you're able to go put the quarterback on the ground and get that quarterback's jersey dirty, it is such a momentum play within the game that it just rallies everybody around it. We do need to do a better job of finding ways to get quarterbacks on the ground on top of just pressuring, creating those big negative plays. It's an area we haven't done great in. I think that this week it's going to be very, very important that we go do that against Richardson. If we can contain him, make sure he doesn't hurt us with his legs, He's a great athlete. He's getting better at throwing the football, but I still don't think he's at a level that if you keep him in the pocket, just make him beat you with his arm, that he can go do that yet. But we need to get him on the ground, not let him run around because he can hurt you as well as anybody in the country can. I think on top of that, though, since I'm stealing Shock's answer after I said I wouldn't, it is, I think the other area that we've just got to get more consistent is in our explosive plays, right? We had some early in the season. We've been a little bit hit and miss here in the second half of the first half of the season. So our past handful of games where we just haven't been as crisp as we want to be. We've got matchup issue, or we present matchup issues every time we step on the field that's going to allow us to get vertical. But when we do have those opportunities, we need to go hit it and make people pay for it because I think, if there's one thing that other teams saw coming out of the first half of the season was what Missouri did against our dogs. They were able to go line up, go play man, go play some man free, bring pressure, and dare us to go over the top of them. We weren't really able to go do that. So if I'm a defensive coordinator, I am pinning my ears back and coming. I think we have to be alert to that. And when we're given opportunities, hit those opportunities that are given to us.
Florida has a guy on their defensive line. I've never seen a size like this before play football. Desmond Watson, a nose tackle. Now on their depth chart, he's listed at 415 pounds. On their roster, he's listed at 440.
I would say the latter.
I mean, agree.
And he's, he's obviously a space eater. How does a guy like that affect your running? We had Jordan Davis. We thought he was enormous and huge. The guy had great athletic skills, and he proffered that into a first round draft pick. I don't think Watson is certainly that caliber of a player, but my goodness, when you're that large, how many guys is it going to take to move him out of a gap if we're trying to run in that direction?
Yeah, well, listen, you're 400 and let's just call it 440. Shock, would you agree?
Absolutely.
We're gonna go with 4. It's listen. You've got to be aware. You've got to be aware of it. But yeah, you're not blocking him one-on-one straight up. You're trying to gain leverage every chance you get, and you're chipping off of a couple of guys. Listen, he doesn't move the way a Jordan Davis moves. I would much rather. If I'm scheming against a defense, scheme against size versus scheme against speed. What made Jordan Davis so special is that he had both.
Yeah.
Right? He had speed that could go run you down. And when you could go run at 340 pounds, that's how do you go defend against that? A guy that big, yeah, he's going to go eat up some space. But you're going to use leverage. You're going to go trap him. You're going to go get after him in a couple of different ways. And you're going to go make him move some. If you can, and get him running east and west a little bit as well. It's when you have speed. Speed kills on the defensive side of the football. Size, you have to contend with it, but it's not. I don't think that's anything that we're losing sleep over going into the football game. But you've got to be aware of it for sure. You're probably not running right at him. You're going to make him move a little bit.
And that's the first thing that came to mind when you asked that, Scott, was like, maybe you gotta do some traps, some stuff. They just don't even block him. Just let him get upfield. You can just push him by. Like, it's gonna be hard to kind of block this guy one-on-one simply because he's 440 pounds. It's unbelievable to have a guy that big and he's sitting right there over the ball. But I'll guarantee there'll be some double teams. There'll be some traps. There'll be some stuff to get him going sideways, like Z mentioned, and try to wear him out. And obviously, like Z just mentioned, he's definitely not a 3-down guy who's going to be able to stay in there all 3 downs, especially if you go on a 7-8 play drive. I don't see him in there for the long run, but he may give you some spurts here and there, and you just got to make sure he doesn't disrupt you, especially in the pass game. The worst thing that a quarterback wants is somebody right there in his lap, and if he's pushing through the middle of that pocket, that's going to force Stetson to the outside. And they got to bring Cox on the outside, who we all know well was a dog. And I'm sure, his last time he would love to have some big plays against Georgia. So just make sure he doesn't affect the game in a way where, in the run game, you're getting stymied or he's pushing the pocket through the middle. He's definitely going to be something you have to worry about because he weighs that much. So he's going to be a space filler, but just can't let him affect the game like you think he would.
Florida's last game with LSU was kind of a shootout, 45-35, and LSU scored, I think, their first 6 possessions, touchdowns, and they didn't punt until the fourth quarter of that game. So there was a lot of back and forth. And Z, you mentioned something that kind of triggered this thought. You talked about speed. Georgia has tremendous speed on defense, and watching some of these other SEC teams, they have it in sections. They don't have it across the board. Do you feel like Georgia's team speed on defense is why we're playing the way we are on defense, averaging, allowing less than 10 points a game? Is anybody in this league faster on defense than Georgia from what you've seen?
Not that I've seen so far, and that will hold true, going into to the game this week. I think that no question you've got teams that have got athleticism that can run, and not to look too far down the road, but you go take a look at like Tennessee and what they have offensively. They've got tremendous speed offensively. Every team in the SEC is going to have spurts, but when you take a look at the overall team, we have such tremendous athletes that on top of being fast and physical, they are great football players and understand what they need to do within the scheme of the defense. It's the reason that you play at an elite level. It's the reason that we did last year. But when you think about team speed over at every single position, I haven't seen anybody yet that comes close to us, or that I've seen on film. And I haven't watched the Alabamas, I haven't watched the Ohio States of the world. But part of the reason we're playing elite football and we're talked about on the national stage right now is because of that athleticism.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's fun to watch this team fly around. And I thought last year's team was special to watch, and the caliber of athletes that you had. And then you turn around this year and you got some new faces, got some new names, got some guys who played a little bit here and there, but it looks almost the same. I mean, I tell you, from the field level, these guys fly around like no other. I know you guys see it every week, but it's fun to watch them down below and watch the communication, watch the way they, talk through stuff on the sideline, the way, they go about, getting after these teams, especially when, teams try to change the East and West, try to just break the mold. It's fun to watch so many guys have contributions on this defense. And then you look up and then here comes another crop of 7 or 8 guys that's coming in behind them that looks the same too. So his staff's done a great job of recruiting, the style of guys they want for this defense, because not everybody can play this defense. Now, you think you come here and you just can, fill a spot. They've done a good job of identifying the type of players they want. And these guys definitely fit the mold for the particular spots you got. And you think about, the style of players they got in just that one position called star. And that's one of the biggest things when Kirby got here was that position. He said had to be crucial. And you think over the years of the guys they had in that spot, the couple guys they got there now, they're always major contributors in the run and pass game. So it's just fun to watch these guys up close and personal because they get after you.
Shock, you bring up a great point when it comes to recruiting. I think that the fan, for the most part, goes onto all these recruiting websites and they see, is he a 5-star guy, or what's his ranking? Those things are important because the people that put those rankings together, they do a very good job. But what's more important, and what Kirby has done, to your point, Kirby has a great understanding of the kind of guy that he wants. He's going after top athletes, so that's why we're picking up 4 stars and 5 stars. But he is going after a certain body type, a certain skill set. It has to fit the mold of what he is trying to do offensively and defensively. And those are the guys that he's going out to go get, right? So we're going to hit on some, we're going to lose on some, but I'm sure as we enter into any recruiting season, he's got, here are the 10 guys that I want, right? Here's ranked 1 to 10, but any one of these 10 guys are going to fit who we are and what we can go and what we need to go do. And you just see that over and over. And it's part of the reason this defense, even with losing so many guys to the NFL, continues to play at a very, very high level.
What's going to be the difference for Georgia in this game? Florida's 4-3, 1-3 in the league. Georgia's still ranked number 1, I think in most people's polls, and undefeated, 4-0 in the league, 7-0 overall. Do you throw out the record book in this, or is Georgia decisively better than Florida in this game? and what's the difference for Georgia, how they win this?
Yeah, so
Scott,
go ahead, Shock. I'm sorry.
I think it's a little bit of both, Scott. I think obviously you look at it and you can tell that Georgia's a better team. But at the end of the day, we all have been a part of this rivalry, and the better team a lot of times haven't won. So that's a big part of this game is you can't worry about where you're ranked, can't worry about, what's happened before now. This game always brings out some crazy stuff. And some interesting things happen when the ball is kicked off. We've seen that. But I think for Georgia, it comes down to, I think, early down success on both sides of the ball. If you're good on offense on first and second down, and you're not in third and long situation, not forcing, Stetson to be in third and 8+ and, having to make a play down the field, then I think you're fine. But if you get into those situations and Florida starts to, pin their ears back and be able to come after you, it's going to force some issues for you. And then if on the other side, defensive side, if you don't have early down success and they're in third and 3 or less, but, a lot of this ball game, we know it's going to happen. They got a big quarterback, 6'4", 230. Last time we seen a guy like that was Cam, and you knew, all right, they're just going to probably run the football. They're going to have QB draw. They're going to have whatever it is to pick up that first down. So I think if you force them into third and longs, it bodes well for your defense because then you got all your exotic packages. You got all those athletes we just talked about that can come off the edge and put a lot of pressure on this quarterback. And so you mentioned it earlier. He's not a polished passer. I think he's completing like 58% of his passes right now. So if you force him into some third and long situations, he will force the ball, and ultimately you'll have a chance to go get it. So I think early down success in this game is going to be crucial, especially in the first half.
Yeah, so it's to echo much of what Shock just said. You can throw the record book out the window in this game. It has zero bearing when you step into a neutral site with the history of this game. Really, the dislike between the two programs, a rivalry game. I don't care what the records are. I don't care what the stats say. It's going to be a battle when you step on the field in Jacksonville. But the Dogs, that being said, are a superior football team right now, and it's a game that we should win. But it's going to be a battle. I think for me, if I were to just to pick out one key, it would be we've got to get Richardson on the ground. We've got to make him one-dimensional. If we allow him to go run around, it is and hurt us with his legs. It can be a dogfight. If we force him to stay in the pocket, we're able to go create some confusion. I do think we've got to get more exotic with the looks that we get and the packages that we bring. He'll have a tendency to throw you the football. He's not good enough yet as a pure passer to put a team on his shoulders and beat a team like Georgia. But if you let him run around and use his athleticism, use his legs to beat you, he is at that point good enough to beat, I think, anybody in the country. So I think that is critical step number one. Obviously, you've got to protect the football. Don't allow the momentum of this football game because of the atmosphere get away from you. And then I think on the offensive side of the ball, we've got to execute big plays. I think Florida's going to go pin their ears back. I think they're going to come. They have nothing to lose, so why not? And if they do that, we have to go execute explosive plays when given the opportunity. And I think if we do those things, it'll be another fun afternoon in Jacksonville.
Dogs and Gators Saturday at 3:30. Our broadcast starts at 11:30 a.m. here on the Bulldogs Sports Network, and then at 12:30 for the tailgate show from Jacksonville. And you can join me along with the rest of these guys here for our broadcast on Saturday. We hope you join us. And since it's Halloween weekend, before we get out of here, Shock, you need to do your thing before we get out of here. I want to know, what you guys are going to look like on Halloween with your kids.
It's going to be similar to what my man Z looks like on
All right. This is the best I got. This will be me. Get in my belly. All right. Hopefully the dogs are putting some gator in their belly on the weekend. Enjoyed it, fellas, and we'll see you on Saturday. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.